Well, hello, I'm Dr. DeRionne Pollard, president of Montgomery College, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Discussion with Decision Makers series, where you can hear from key leaders about today's issues in our community. As a college president, I'm responsible for leading our community's college, an institution that provides Montgomery County residents with access to affordable education and training that empowers them and prepares them with skills that will make them ready for the job market or for transfer. The pandemic, though, as we all know, has upended our economy. Many in our community have lost their job and need to find a work, and that people are struggling. It's painful for so many out there. And all the while, we're all trying to stay safe during a pandemic. Now, this has touched so many of us in our community, residents, families, employers, and of course, Montgomery College students. As we work to rebound and rebuild our economy and our community, we must think about the interwoven complexity of issues that will not only help us rebound, but really help us build and create a stronger Montgomery County where everyone, all of us, can thrive. And that's why it's my pleasure to welcome one of Montgomery County's leaders and voice for equity and economic development, Councilmember Jawando. Councilmember Jawando is an at-large member of the Montgomery County Council, which means he represents every resident of Montgomery County. And I can tell you personally, as a Clarksburg resident, I saw him walking the streets here in Clarksburg while he was running for his office. Mr. Jawando is a member of the Council's Education and Culture Committee, as well as the Council's Planning, Housing, and Economic Development Committee. He proudly tells us all the time that he's the council's lead for libraries. So you know how much I love a library and how important that is, but I think he might have me beat right now. He has been an advocate for education and is a friend to Montgomery College, but I also feel profoundly proud to say that he is a friend of mine as well. So thank you so much for joining me, Councilmember Jawando, to today's conversation with decision makers in Montgomery County.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, a pleasure. As you know, I'm a big fan of your work, your leadership over the last 10 years at Montgomery College, and all the folks that work at the college to make it a great place for students, for our economy, and the like. So really glad to be here. Looking forward to this conversation. It's an important one right now.
Is tremendously important. And you also have a distinctive new role with Montgomery College that we'll come back to at the end of our session today. But I wanted to jump right in when you talked about the economy. Now, we know that the economic impact of COVID-19 has devastated so many residents in our community, and certainly our county. As we think about this, both large and small employers have been dramatically impacted as well. And on one hand, many residents can work from home and have suffered few economic hardships. So to begin our conversation, I want you to tell me what you see to be the economic consequences of this pandemic. What are you hearing from your constituents and from employers about how they are experiencing this really tremendously disruptive experience right now?
Well, it's certainly been, as you mentioned, an extremely challenging time for everyone as we've navigated these multiple pandemics, right? You know, I talk about at least 3 pandemics: the health COVID pandemic, which has led to so many hundreds of thousands dead, so many others impacted. Obviously, the economic fallout from that, over 40 million and counting people who have signed up for unemployment insurance, unemployment, and how do I get unemployment insurance, and food banks, some of the most searched terms in 2020. And I don't think heading in that any of us would have suspected a year ago that would have been the case, but that's what's happened. And in Montgomery County, it's been the same. But one of the brutal parts of these pandemics, and certainly the third pandemic, the social justice and racial reckoning that we are in the midst of right now with the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and trying to adjust and say, are we all treated the same no matter how we look here in the country? We know that's never been the case, and how do we finally atone and try to make progress there? So you've had all this happening at the same time, and all the historic inequities and disparities that we've had are coming to a fore, and we're seeing it displayed in a really brutal way. And unlike 2008, I was working in the Obama White House in 2009 and 10, and when we first came in, where you had a recession and you had the big bank collapse in the stock market. That hit a lot of people at different wealth levels, right? It certainly hurt the poor and the middle class the most, but everyone lost money. In this kind of recovery, in this kind of pandemic, you've seen a K-shaped kind of effort where some people have made money, right? You know, billionaires have gotten richer during this time, and the middle and low income folks are just struggling to hang on. And that makes the work of an equitable recovery, you know, so much more important. And I just thought give you one number just to kind of crystallize that. The Americans for Tax Fairness in the Institute for Policy Studies put out a study earlier at the end of last year, and American billionaires grew an average of 42 billion during each week that the coronavirus went on, starting back in March. And if you just think about that in the contrast of, I mentioned, you know, the 43, 44 plus million people requesting unemployment insurance, tens of thousands in the state. So it's just been devastating, and it just underscores the need for a real focus. 40% of Black businesses gone in the country. And, you know, just I could go down the list, but there's in any measure that you look at, this has been a very disparate attack from the health side. You know, African Americans, 1 in 4 of the deaths, Latinos, the highest infection rates here in the county, from who's lost their jobs, who's disproportionately a frontline worker, all of those measures. And so it just is, it's hit us the same way because we're a diverse population. Thankfully, you know, we have good fiscal management here, but it's been a difficult time.
So, you know, what I found so profound about your response was this whole idea of these kind of binary oppositions. On one hand, we have people who are thriving and doing well in this pandemic, and we have others in more significant numbers who are not only not doing well, they are suffering tremendously. We know this will have inevitably some type of long-term impact on them and their family, if not generational. Because that's the other thing no one's going to be talking about, because none of us knows about the real long-term health impacts that will occur as a result of those who have had COVID-19 and survived it. And yet in the midst of this, you're charged as an elected leader to help us figure out how to rebound, how to get through this. And one of the things that so many of us are worried about is that employees are suffering, employers are suffering. We're seeing senior level folks at some of our large corporations like Marriott are leaving their jobs or having to leave their jobs. We also see those who are in small restaurants, as you described, in the gig economy is really tremendously impacted. So how do we as a community, I think, start to think about how do we retain talent in our community? And also, how do we help families recover and the economy rebound? Because that right there, we know that this pandemics has revealed something to us that many of us, quite frankly, may not have wanted to pay attention to. But now we're having to do that. What are some of the things we have to do to recover in this moment?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, you know, we could probably spend this whole conversation talking about in how many ways people have been hurt. But I think I'm glad we're pivoting to, you know, what do we do? It is important to understand the devastation of it because it is being felt so disparately. But to your point, what do we do? You know, we're blessed here in the county. Not only do we, as you know, have 4 of the most diverse cities in the country in the top 10. We've got one of, if not one of the top.
The most diverse college in the country. Yes, it is. In the continental United States, we are. Yes.
There you go. The most, and I was going to say the best, you know, that's where I was going on that, but, you know, but certainly in the top 5 at a minimum. And so how do we make sure that we're leveraging our resources, our ethic of wanting to take care of people here in the county to help people recover equitably? And so I think there's a few things that need to happen. We need to meet the immediate needs of folks, right? And so kind of what I would call, you know, stop the bleeding, right? If someone gets injured, you know, I'm not a doctor, I'm a lawyer, and I don't play a doctor on TV, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, as they say, or if you remember those commercials. The first thing they'll tell you is to put pressure on the wound. And that's what we've been trying to do here in the county. It's what The federal government has done, at least with the first round of CARES Act, and then this down payment we had before the end of the year. And now, thankfully, with President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris announcing nearly a $2 trillion stimulus and economic recovery plan. But we're going to need to continue to stop the hemorrhaging, which is still going on as the virus rages. Some of the highest infection rates that we've had have been in the last 2 weeks, right? And since the pandemic began, I think people forget that in the midst of our democracy under attack and everything else. And so that's rental assistance, so people can stay in their homes, and not only stay in their homes so they can be safe and be cared for, but not spread the virus. It's things like unemployment insurance. It's these stimulus payments, getting them up to at a minimum of $2,000, so folks can have some flexibility to pay some of these bills down that we know have been accruing. It's food assistance. I worked with my colleagues. We set up the largest set in distributions of food across the county. It started in a few areas in East County and others, and now we have 8 hubs doing it with tons of partners. We've invested tens of millions of dollars in the food effort. I started an effort called Food for Montgomery, which is a private-public partnership to work with our private sector to raise money to support our food system, not only the immediate needs, but our farmers and our restaurants that are providing meals, and also our food banks. So that set of work remains important. We have to help our businesses. We've given out over $55 million directly in different types of grants to our businesses. We need to do more in that front as well, working with our state and federal partners. So there's this stopping the bleeding that, because we know that 90% of our businesses are small businesses, right? And that many of them are struggling. And so that if they shut down, they're not paying their employees, they can't pay their rent. It's a downward cycle. And so that's very important as well. And then obviously people need to eat. We need to take care of our students in schools, which we know has been a devastating impact. Childcare has just been hitting so many of these working families that have had to go out and are essential workers. So we've made those investments to try to stop that bleeding. But then we have to look at the kind of underlying, as you were mentioning, the fault lines, right? What do we need to do to make sure, now that we know how bad things are, how do we stop that immediate bleeding and then start working on fixing the systemic things that made us vulnerable as we are to the things that have happened, unemployment. And that's where you talk about skills training, access to education, access to healthcare. You talk about an equitable criminal justice system, right? So people aren't disparately treated unfairly by the criminal justice system and can get back into the workforce. So that's all of those things as we're working, right, of course, to stop the health threat and get people vaccinated, right? So that we can get people back into the economy and back to some sense of normalcy. So those are some of the things. I don't want to keep rambling on, but those are some of the things I think we need to do right now. There's obviously much more we could talk about.
Well, what I loved about your thought right there, Will, though, is this idea that we're really talking about and using your metaphor of putting pressure on the gaping wound. It also, what I hear you saying, is triaging very quickly. It's this idea of figuring out what is the illness or threat that's there. How do we immediately solve some challenges that can help that in that moment after you do that diagnosis, and then get people to the right specialist that they need to help solve that particular problem to put them on the right track. And for a lot of us in this county right now, it's really about closing the skills gap when we think about the economy. Despite the growth that we've seen in unemployment locally and across the nation, we know that many jobs are going unfilled in certain industries like lab bench workers or positions that span across many cybersecurity or IT types of functions. So I want to tackle a couple questions that go to this idea. So we know that, first of all, we've got to help people stop the bleeding, right? Then we've got to figure out how to help address that wound and get that wound treated. And then we also have to figure out how to get them on a recovery pathway that allows them to get to long-term rebound in health. How do we do a rebound in the way that gives more residents access to good jobs? How do we do this equitably? Because that's the issue that folks like us worry a lot about, is that we are putting all these solutions and remedies in place. We're looking at how we have lifeboat jobs. We're looking at mini camps to help people get into work. But how do we start to really ensure that the rebound that we're trying to have for the economy here in Montgomery County does not leave some people behind? How do we make sure that it is indeed equitable to all of the folks over 1 million plus who live in this community?
Yeah, and that is the question, because it requires us to do many things at the same time. And thank you for adding to the metaphor that I used there. And you're exactly right. So step one, we realize the damage that's happened. We assess it. I just convened a study from our Office of Legislative Oversight to look at the impact that COVID has had on women, for example. If you look at the job losses in the country, and we lost jobs in the nation, and the entire loss was due to women leaving the workforce. The entire loss. Men actually gained 16,000 jobs. Women lost 156,000. So it was a net loss of 138,000 or so. And you just think about that. Of the people who stopped looking for work in September, there was 1.1 million people. 80% were women. So 40%, as I mentioned, 40% of Black businesses gone. So we have to assess the damage, and then really if you talk about equity, you have to understand that, and then really target solutions to make sure that we're helping give support and lifting up those communities. And in order to do that, we're going to have to not do business as usual, right? And I think there's a couple things. One, we're going to need to have additional revenues and a fair tax structure, right? This is something that you wouldn't think about necessarily in the context of this. But right now, whether you're a millionaire in this county or someone that's making $25,000 a year, everyone pays the same income tax rate. We have a flat rate of 3.2%. If we were to raise that top rate to 3.5%, just 0.3% for millionaires, and then I could lower taxes for everyone making under $100,000 who are being hit really hard if you're lucky enough to have a job. You'd relieve some of that pressure on the bottom end of the spectrum. Maybe they go enroll at that $300 course at Montgomery College and step up their skills. That's not an insignificant thing. And then you relieve pressure, but then you raise additional revenue from folks who have done well, and that can contribute to the overall economy. Because when those people that were making less do well, that helps the entire economy. And so you could raise over $30 million just by raising a year. So $30 million a year just by raising the top millionaires up to 0.3% on the income tax. There's a bill in Annapolis to give us the authority to do that. This session, we've got to get that done. And what do you do with that money? You invest it in skills training. You make sure that our students that have fallen behind get what they need when we come back to school. You invest it in support for small businesses that are right on the edge of teetering, making sure they can stay at their retail spots and continue to be a service to the community. So you can take that money, relieve some pressure. That's one example of something we need to do. We also need to make sure that we're creating this. We talked earlier about this pipeline. As you know, I worked on the largest job shadowing program that the county has ever put together, called Summer Rise. How do we expand those work-based learning opportunities, even if they're virtual, right? Businesses have now figured out, we've all figured out, look how we're talking today, that this is online, this is not going away. So how do we make sure that our students have access to the internships? And now, as I've been thinking, we used to usually think regionally, the scope of businesses that we can link our students up with is almost anywhere now, as we move to this digital economy, and which we were already doing, but it has been accelerated. So how do we get those types of work-based learning opportunities for our young people, and then get people the intermediate skills that they need? When I toured your Germantown campus last year, or maybe it was just before the pandemic, and saw some of the great work that you're doing in cybersecurity and how you can quickly turn around a program and train people to meet a need in a job as we're getting hacked by Russia and attacked by China, right? That's just an example of one industry. Obviously, the biohealth, the lab space, the lab technicians, all these jobs, if we can relieve some of that pressure, childcare, give some money back into the pockets of people, support people with healthcare so they don't have to worry about that. They can invest in themselves and fill those jobs that we know are there. You and I know are there, but they just need a little bit more skills or training to get there. So that's part of what I think we need to do to make sure this is really, really an equitable recovery.
I love that. It's so interesting when you were talking about the study that you commissioned to look at the absence or the disappearance of women in the workforce. The first thing I thought about was all the work the county has also been doing around childcare. And if you look at all of the conversations that are there, you cannot disconnect the lack of childcare and the fact that for so many decades in this country that elementary or primary schooling has been de facto childcare for so many families.
Right.
So the absence of schooling right now in the midst of the pandemic puts pressure on, more often than not, women in a family, because we already know that women are making anywhere from 70 to 80 cents for every dollar if they are in a relationship with a man, that is compared to that man. So that oftentimes the woman has to stay home, take care of their children, because right now these intersections of highly complex problems are going to require intersections of highly complex solutions, which I think I love in your response. I would be remiss as we kind of move into the last 10 minutes or 8 minutes of this conversation, Councilmember Jawando, to talk about how Montgomery College can be a part of the solution.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that we make a difference in our community's future. We do this post-pandemic because we know we've done it pre-pandemic. As I tell people, we specialize in this moment, and it's an investment in homegrown talent when the community invests in this community college. I know this because our alumni have made a $1 billion contribution to the local economy. I also say this because of alumni like Julie Verratti, whose dogged persistence has kept her brewery denizens moving forward during this pandemic economy. And I say that because of folks like Saul Graham, who founded Quality Biologics, and industry leaders like Robert Scher. Kind of your closing thoughts here. I'd love to hear, what do you want to see your community college doing to help really advance an equitable rebound? Where should we be looking as a community college to better serve our community as an anchor institution?
Well, one, just want to start by, and I know some of those great alums, and as I think I'll talk about that a little later. We'll talk about my status with Montgomery College maybe at the end here, but you're doing so much. But I think you're right. There's so much more you can do. As I mentioned, if you look at the top Google or search terms last year, top on the list was digital skills, online courses. Where can I get the best online courses, or how do I entrepreneurship, things that are all connected to things that you all do and do very well. So I think, and we always talk about this, on any given day in Montgomery County, there are tens of thousands of jobs that are available and open that we don't have people connected to. And I know we have people, I think about it often. We have 1.1 million plus people here. We have a great infrastructure. We have great educational institutions. You all, University of Shady Grove, other institutions in the region. We need to do a better job and double down on the technology that we use to connect that those workforce needs to our employers, or those workers rather, to our employers, and then fill that gap of giving them those skills in sometimes really quick ways, like you're doing in cybersecurity. But there might be some other that take a year. But I think we need to double down our efforts to build those pipelines. And you all are already doing it, but I think the urgency of the moment now is that we have to find better ways to connect. And I do think that the use of technology, the openness to taking these online courses, I think we're at a whole new, if there's any silver lining, it's that I think we can tap into that in such a different way, in a more robust way. And I've noticed your marketing on TV, and you I think I saw one during the college football, the national championship game. And so I think, you guys are doing a great job, but that's certainly a component of it. And I think if we do that, we have the infrastructure here, the institutions, the employers, and the need, and we have the workforce, and we just have to continue to try to connect those dots. And that's what I'm really excited about, the role that Montgomery College has played, but can play an even bigger role in helping us do.
Well, one of the things I think is important too is that we're helping people meet them where they are. We're looking to make sure, to the extent we can, that we're meeting them with in the diverse backgrounds that our students come to us with, including language diversity. So one of the
Yeah.
things that I note that, as I shared at the top of our interview here, you're having a unique different perspective of Montgomery College this spring, and I'd love to give you an opportunity to tell our audience about what you're going to be doing this spring as you continue to do you and do you at a different level.
I appreciate that. I have just enrolled as a spring semester student at Montgomery College, and I'll be taking an intermediate Spanish course to improve my language skills. We know that it's one of the many great things you offer at the college, and I'll be taking it on Saturdays, 2 hours for 12 weeks. And I just signed up. So I am not only a council member in Montgomery County, I am now a student at Montgomery College, and I'm proud to say so, and really look forward to, and I think it's just a small example of, the range of skills that you all can help provide in this critical time to meet needs and connect people to job skills. In my case, it's going to help me communicate with my constituents better, understand the needs of our very diverse community in a language that's spoken quite a bit here, and also help my baby girl, my youngest daughter, who's in Spanish immersion. So it's got a family benefit and a community benefit as well, which is also important when you think about the skills that are going to be needed, the training, the supports, to make sure all of our families in Montgomery County have a place to live, have a good job, have a school that values their child, where they are learning what they need to learn to be a part of this economy so they can live a good life. That's what it's about. And this pandemic has really exposed that so many don't have access to that. And the work of all of us, the college, the county, the country, is to make sure that we build back better and that we make these connections and investments that have historically not been made. So I'm excited to start my collegiate career over here in Montgomery College.
I love that. And I love that about you, your willingness, because I think that also is a recognition that education, as we often say, is both a public and a private good. And this idea that it allows you to be able to communicate more effectively and deliberately, and I think intentionally, with all members of your community that you serve, I think is so important. But the other part of being able to help with one of your children's daughter's work, I think is going to be pretty exciting. And I know for us, that's what we think we try to do best at Montgomery College. We want to meet every resident of this community where they are and help them get to where they want to be and be a part of the solution for this community. What I know for sure, and I say it all the time, is that any rebound or recovery that Montgomery County does, Montgomery College is essential to that. And your being here today to talk with us speaks to that. The idea of an equitable recovery is something that is, I think, a part of the ethos of this community. We want to make sure that no one gets left behind. And I loved what you said earlier about everyone having a better quality of life. I believe deeply that if one of us does better, I'm hopeful that all of us can do better in that. So I want to thank you, Councilmember Jawando, for joining me today. You really helped us focus on this conversation, and I'm going to keep that imagery about putting pressure on the wound. That was profound for me via my gratitude journal tonight. I want to thank you also for talking about the solutions that all of us can be a part of. Most importantly, I thank you for being here in our county. Your leadership is essential. I thank you for being here for the college, because what you've done for us has been significant. I also feel proud and privileged to call you friend and colleague and mentor and all the types of things with that. So I'll let you have any closing thoughts that you might want to offer as we enter here, after, to remind people about how to take care of themselves also in the midst of the COVID.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dr. Pollard, and thank you for all the things that you do as a leader and all your team at the college. You are hands down going to be and are a integral part of this equitable recovery. And I do want to remind folks, as I mentioned earlier, the virus is still at its peak, and we have new strains coming in. We are putting vaccinations in arms as quickly as possible. As of today, we've given out tens of thousands of vaccinations. We've requested more from the state. Our hospitals are starting to vaccinate their employees, and we'll be moving to the senior population within the next week or so. So that's happening, but we just have to do our part. We have to wear our facial coverings. We have to social distance, no large gatherings, so that we can really, because step one to this recovery is to stop the loss of life, and to stop the spread of the virus. And then everything else is going to need to come at the same time, but after that, and that's an important step. So really appreciate you in the reminder and the prompt to say that. And if you have any questions, you can always visit me at Will Jawando. Go to the Montgomery County MD.gov website to see any updates on COVID or any of the programs that I mentioned earlier. We're here to support you. So thank you for having me, and look forward to continuing our work together.
Awesome. Thank you, Councilmember Jawando. Thank you to our audience for joining us today. So grateful that you choose to be a part of this dialogue and continue to learn more about those folks who are helping to really get us through this moment, but also making Montgomery County continue to be the ideal place to live. I hope that each of you are safe, and I'll join in Councilmember Jawando's statements. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear your facial covering, and remember, we are still in the midst of a pandemic, and our wellness collectively is dependent upon what we do individually. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend and be well.